Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, sees 3 films, around about 3 films, stays at home, sees 3 things, or around about 3 things, on the various streaming platforms, rates them all out of 5, and sees where our money has been better spent this week. My name is Tosin, and I am the host with you. I am in a place called Bromsgrove, which is somewhere in the Midlands, in the middle of the UK. And joining me, as always, on the Isle of Wight, Sharon Bollen.
Hello.
And Shaun Harris.
Hello.
You know, we're doing this over Zoom, and I looked at you and I almost just said Shaun Bugman.
You can call me Shawnee Bugman.
Yeah,
a lot of people
Bugman.
do. A lot of people do call me Shawnee Bugs, Shawnee Bugman.
Yeah.
Bugman.
How did the Bugman thing start? Because you show up every week and your name on Zoom is Bugman.
Okay, well, it's quite funny. I played chess on once online, and someone said to me, "Are you an pest exterminator?" Something. I said, "No. This stems from when I was small. I got called. I had a friend over the road, like a girlfriend, not a girlfriend, but a friend who was a girl.
A friend who was a girl.
Lived opposite when I was a kid, and sort of in the streets and that. And she started calling me Shaun. She started calling me Shawnee Bugs, and then it sort of caught on. My sister started calling me Shawnee Bugs, and I used to call her Catface Danny. Why? I have no idea. But anyway, right, Catface Danny. Funny enough, I've seen her now. We're like in our 60s, and we still laugh about it. But anyway, so it was Shawnee Bugman, and then I had it as a Hotmail address, and then everybody just sort of shortened it to Bugman. You know what I mean? The Bugman.
Oh, so, yeah.
Like I had nieces and nephews, second cousins, and all that, and they were like, Bugman, Shawnee Bugman. I got a lovely little thing they sent me. I sent some presents to them once, and they were going, Johnny Bugman. So it's just sort of, I quite like it as a.
Oh man, okay. Now, straight up, I want to engineer an on-podcast reunion between Shawnee Bugman and Cat Ice Danny.
Catface
Danny.
She's nuts. She's absolutely 100% bonkers. I think probably that would not be a good idea. She's crazy. She is totally bonkers. I mean,
you mean you would have trouble trying to ask her a couple of questions or something?
No, you'd probably ask the questions, but I don't know what the answers would be like. She's quite foul-mouthed, but you know.
Oh, it might be our first podcast with an explicit rating on it.
It would be quite funny. I will ask her. I mean, I see her very occasionally because she obviously lives in Bournemouth. I see her very rarely. I did go on. I did drive her. She bought a big. She's really strange. She bought this massive big camper van thing, and she didn't want to drive it, and she asked me to drive it for her to Wales. And there was another school friend. So there was Kim, Diane, 2 dogs, and me. I was driving with these 2 tiny little, but each one of them had a little dog all running around going. I said, bizarre. Anyway, we won't go there. So it was an adventure.
Okay, that's a wonderfully random start to the podcast.
Well, you know me. I like to disappoint.
If you clicked in listening to films, I would like to say I guess I should say we're sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not really sorry that much because we found out about Catface Danny. So, which reminds me, I need to finish watching a TV show called Dollface to bring us back on point. A TV show called Dollface, which actually features a cat lady, like a literal cat lady.
Ooh.
But yeah, I know, Sharon. Yeah, that is the face. There is a literal cat lady in the show called Dollface. I will explain later, and I guess if I ever finish watching the first season, I can report back on it. But anyway, let's talk about the things that we have seen this week. So we talk about going to the cinema each week. What have we seen in the cinema this week? Shaun, I'll let you go first. What have you seen in the cinema?
Well, I've had quite a lean week this week, but I think it's because of the bank holiday weekend and some of the football. But I've only seen one movie this week, and that's The Pope's Exorcist.
The Pope's Exorcist, and I have seen Super Mario, the Super Mario Brothers movie, to give it its official title. And Sharon, you have had one of those weeks, haven't you?
Yes, I have not been to the cinema this week, nor did I manage to get to cinema last week. So I haven't. Yeah.
Have you still got that Cineworld Unlimited pass?
Yes, I have not made the most of it this month. It has had its money from me, and I haven't made the most of it.
But the thing is, okay, I used to have one of these before I moved to an area that didn't have a cinema that had either an Odeon or a limit or a Cineworld, and I know that we make it up in the other months because because quite frankly, with those passes, I mean, super fan Nina, who listens to the show, she got a limitless pass to go to an Odeon, and she was like, "Should I get it?" I was like, "Look, if you see 2 films a month, you've made your money back."
Yeah, so, you only have to go twice a month.
Yeah, to make your money back, and we. So quite frankly, I think that they're playing the numbers game going, oh, most people won't go see more than 2 films a month. I'm like, you haven't met Shaun. You haven't met Shaun Harris, who is probably averaging £2 per film at this stage. All right, cool. So that's in cinema and at home. So Shaun, what did you see at home? What did you finish seeing at home?
At home, I finished watching the series Daisy Jones and the Six on Amazon Prime.
Daisy Jones and the Six. I've been hearing about that. I've been hearing about Fleetwood Mac vibes. And then Shaun, what did you see at home?
I saw a Korean drama called not a drama, action flick called Kill Boksoon.
Kill Boksoon. Yeah, I've been seeing that. That's been coming up. That's been showing up on my Netflix list and everything. And because we only have, if we had a third film in the cinema, I was going to talk about something that I have been watching. And the title of this should tell you what stage of life I'm in right now. And this is a show called Princess Power. So it might be, you might be able to. Yes, you might be able to detect. You might be able to detect what stage of life I'm in and what. And what kind of child I have, like what gender my child is. You might be able to pick that up from that. But it's actually one of these things where you have a kids program that I think has some things in it that is worth noting because they do something quite clever with it. But I'll save that story for another week when we have enough time. Yeah. So let us kick off, and I will kick off with the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, the late Bob Hoskins, when asked, he there's this famous interview that you have with Bob Hoskins where they ask him like, what is this biggest regret that he's ever made in his professional life, and he says Super Mario Brothers.
Oh.
And it's kind of like, because he was in a version of Super Mario Brothers in 1993, and this was and they had decided to reinvent Super Mario Brothers, and this time when they were trying to just sort of like think, okay, let's just find ready known properties and shove them at the screen, and they took Super Mario Brothers and they shoved it at the screen and they made all sorts of stuff with it, and it looked nothing like the game. And you had Bob Hoskins, who looked a bit like Mario, quite frankly. They tried to make him look like Mario, and you had John Leguizamo playing Luigi, and you had Samantha Mathis playing Princess Peach, and it was just weird. You had Dennis Hopper playing the bad guy Bowser, and it was a weird steampunk thing that looked nothing like Mario, and it's widely derided as being one of the worst video game adaptations ever made. Now, Nintendo have decided to go back, and this time they've teamed up with Illumination, the guys who do the Despicable Me films, to make an animated, sorry Sharon, I know you're never going to see this, so it's an animated thing where everything looks like the game. Everything looks like the game, and I feel, I have 2 brothers, and one of them was asking us, he was saying, he was asking us whether he was trying to figure out who was going to be most excited about the Super Mario Brothers movie, whether it was going to be myself, whether it was going to be my brother, or whether it was going to be my brother's son, who is 12. And I was like, I don't think it's going to be the son. I think it's going to be between me and my brother. Because quite frankly, we are children of Mario. When we talk about video games, that's one of the first things we ever played. The original Super Mario Brothers game was one of the first games we ever played all the way through our lives. I actually once got my brother a t-shirt with a Nintendo NES controller on it that says, Know Your Roots. And he loved that t-shirt, and he held it as the best thing I'd ever bought him. So for people like us, I think this is a film that we're like, yes, give us the Mario, the way we knew it, the way we liked it as when we were kids, give it to us. And that's what they do. They give you that in this film. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not clever, it's not complicated, it's not sophisticated, it's not nuanced. It is essentially, we're going to give you some things, and we're going to bring all your favorite things from all the different versions of the game that have been from Super Mario Brothers, from Super Mario Brothers 3, from Mario Kart, from Mario World, all that, and they shove all these things in the film, and they do, some of them they do, the way they link them together, I actually quite liked. And there was a couple of times when I was laughing. I was going, I see what they did there. Especially because Mario has one of the most iconic theme tunes and iconic pieces of music in the world. The dun 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 dun. And the way they incorporate all these different bits of the Mario music into like a sort of score orchestral thing, I had me just sort of sitting in the cinema going, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. I like it. They come up with a plot to link everything together. No, who cares? But essentially, Mario and his brother Luigi are in Brooklyn. They find a portal to this world, which is the Mushroom Kingdom, and they end up having to help Princess Peach save the Mushroom Kingdom from Bowser Koopa, who is this big turtle line guy, voiced by Jack Black, who is trying to take over everything. So far, so fantasy, end of story, then that's it. Things happen, and then blah, 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 save the day. That's the storyline. And I think for those people who grew up on Mario, for those people who like Mario, this is fun. This is a lot of fun. Is it a good film? Probably not.
Is it just for the? Is it for like the nostalgia thing? Do you think that they've made this? I mean, I'm not really. I'm aware of Mario. I wasn't really into that Nintendo game thing. I know once I went round someone's house and they were playing Mario Kart, where he goes. All I always seem to think is. He goes, let's go! I like that.
Yes. Yeah, no, he does that, and that is a bit of a... Because in the games, they got a guy called Charles Martinet to voice Mario, and he does what can only be described as an Italian stereotype accent. Bearing in mind this guy has no Italian in him whatsoever, it's a little bit insensitive. And a big thing about this when they made this film was, are they going to change the voice? Are they going to go have Mario walking around going, it's me, Mario, hey, Luigi, let's go. And are they going to do that? And they didn't. And I, for one, am very happy that they did that. Right. I remember the Mario cartoons. There were Mario cartoons I used to watch in the 90s. And in those, they gave Mario, like, a Brooklyn accent, yeah. And in this one, they gave him not so much of that. It's a lot more level. There's some jokes in it about the way Mario sounds and there's a bit at the beginning of the film where they pretty much say, yeah, we're not doing that. And I think that it works quite well with Chris Pratt as Mario. I know Chris Pratt takes a lot of flack online, mainly for being a Christian, quite frankly, or having links with the Hillsong Church. He takes a lot of flack online, and so people have decided to hate him and decided to hate this film just because it's Chris Pratt and because they think he's a Christian. Burn him. And but I think he does really well as Mario, and I think Charlie Day, who I usually find quite annoying, and I find his voice quite annoying, works really well as Luigi in this film. And Taylor-Joy is okay. I mean, the standout voice is Jack Black as Bowser, because Jack Black goes a bit Tenacious D, and there's a bit where they reveal Bowser's actual motivation for wanting to take over and wanting to wreak all this destruction, and it is gloriously silly. It is gloriously silly and stupid, and there's a bit where Jack Black is singing and he's doing this whole sort of Tenacious D thing and everything like that, and I think at those bits that's actually quite funny. It's quite funny. So, but when you talk about the nostalgia thing, let me put it this way. So Mario is a side-scrolling game where you run up ladders, you jump off things, you punch things, and all that. And there's two scenes in this film where they have the action, and the action is just sort of side-scrolling, and you can see exactly what they're doing. Everything that they're doing is a homage to the original Mario game, and I just had a massive grin on my face when they did it, and I was just kind of like, yes. There's a bit where they have with the Mario Kart stuff. There's a bit of a homage to Mario Kart. It's a little bit. They don't do much with it. It's almost kind of as if they just, in this film, it's as if they just kind of go, okay, let's shove as many different things in there as possible. We have the Rainbow Road, we have the Mario Kart thing, we have this thing, we have that thing, we have Luigi's Mansion, and they shove all these things in there. We have what happens when you touch a star, and they shove all of them in there, and some of them are sort of shoved in there without, I'll tell you what I feel. I feel like this film at the moment has been blasted by critics. Critics have said it's rubbish. And if you're going to be critical about it, yes, but this film is not made to be a critical darling. This film is made for nostalgia of kids who grew up on Mario, and they have loved it. And this film has been one of the biggest hits of the year so far. So the way it is, you know there's going to be a second film because this is Hollywood and they like money. Yeah. So you know there's going to be a second film. And I think in the second film, the directors, because I actually quite like the directors, they do Teen Titans Go. I think they are going to be let off the leash a little bit, and they're going to be allowed to be a bit more crazy and go out there and have a few more ideas and be a bit more clever, a bit like the way the Lego movie was, or a bit like the way Dungeons and Dragons was that we spoke about. Be a bit more clever with it in the second film. But in this first film, I think it was just kind of like softly, let's just be gentle, and we've got a massive hit. Okay, now let's take some wheels off. Let's take a handbrake off. That's what I'm hoping. But so I liked it. I had a smile on my face. Was it great? No. Was it inventive? No. Is this a 2-star film? Probably, but I'm going to give it 3.
Cool. You got to go with that sometimes.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 3 because it hit all the right buttons for me as a child of Mario and somebody who grew up with it. And I thought I enjoyed it. So, right, cool. So that is the Super Mario Brothers movie, which I will recommend for anybody who grew up with Mario or anybody who has a child that they want to take along and wants to go, oh, look, pretty colors. And now let us go on to Netflix and Friends, and we're going to talk about Kill Boksoon. So Shaun, tell us about Kill Boksoon.
Okay, Kill Boksoon. So this is a Korean movie, and it starts off like with a good action sequence. Which so you know that there's Boksoon. She's an assassin basically. She works for an assassin agency, and she's got 100% record. She's her job. She's every job's been completed really, really well. So and you know she's quite capable from the opening fight sequence. The thing is, she's got a teenage daughter who's having some issues, and of course she can't say to her teenage daughter, "Oh, you know, I'm an assassin," you know, because she asks her, "Oh, what do you do, man? You never communicate with me. You never." Typical relationships between a mother and a teenage daughter. Obviously, the teenage daughter's got some issues, relationship issues, and all that. But she's like the top assassin for this assassination agency, and you know everybody loves her. She's really good. And then one day she decides she's on this mission with someone else, and she decides not to complete it. So the agency's not particularly happy about this, obviously. So you've got a little bit of a John Wick situation.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, John Wick. Okay,
so yeah, exactly.
Let me check the date on this film. Was this made before Keanu Reeves grew his hair long and grew a beard and started killing people?
So now you've got this Kill Bill situation where you know the agency is not particularly happy with her. So and I mean there's one scene early on in the film where she's got like they're mates, you know, they're sort of in a bar and then we'll talk and say, oh yeah, you know, this, that and the other, and they're all sorts of shapes and sizes and young and old and silly and not so silly. And of course when it comes through, you know, we'll Kill Boksoon, they all like turn on her, you know, they're all her mates are all trying to get anyway.
Yeah. So all trying to get the bounty.
Yeah, and then you've got the very head. You do at the end, but you never know. The head of this organization. He had some sort of relationship when she was really, really young. When she first sort of joined he saw a lot of potential in her because of certain issues, something that happened, and he was there. And he's not really sure whether the daughter is his or not. So he's got this in his mind so he's thinking, you know, he's a bit conflicted. So he sort of half tries to protect her in a sort of way. So a bit like, you know, in the first John Wick, you've got what's his name pardon?
Ian McShane.
Yeah, not Ian McShane. You've also got what's his name? The Lighthouse Man. Because remember in the sort of
William Dafoe.
William Dafoe, yeah. William Dafoe's the thing, isn't he? And because he's going to get, he sort of shoots so you've got that sort of thing. So yeah, basically this is a total action flick with really stylized like fighting. There's a particularly good scene in a building where they sort of pan up and go across, and Yeah, I mean, but that's pretty much what it is. Really, is a Korean John Wick with a female author, with a female author,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
female protagonist with a daughter that's like a side issue.
So
but that's quite interesting.
John Wick has a dog. This woman has a daughter.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's along the sort of lines of I don't know. Although she was sort of nice, that I didn't really relate to her in any way. I didn't think, I wasn't like rooting for her in any particular way. I wasn't rooting for Boksoon. Like sometimes, like with some characters, when you see a movie, you actually root for them and say, "Oh yeah, come on, well done."
Yeah.
It didn't particularly. There's a fair amount of bloodletting, which you normally get with Korean movies. When the action movies.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you something about the thing is, because when John Wick was released and everybody was raving about the action and stuff.
Yeah.
It was a bit like when The Matrix was released, and I thought that John Wick owes a hell of a lot to Asian cinema, specifically Korean cinema, because Korean action cinema is mental. It is absolutely mental. It's kind of like, when Jackie Chan used to do all of his stunts because there was no health and safety in Hong Kong back in the days. It's like the Koreans have taken up that mantle. And there's a film. Have you ever seen the film called... Oh, no, Shaun, I know you have seen the film The Villainess.
Yes.
The Villainess. And The Villainess starts off with this...
Villainess, yes.
Yeah, it starts off with this 5 minute...
That's a few years ago, yeah.
Yeah, 5 minute first person action shot, which is just mental. I mean, if you watch no other bits of the film, watch the first 5 minutes of The Villainess, because I remember telling my brother about that, and my brother watching it was like, "Oh my god, what is this nonsense?" Because that it's just, and there's even a bit in John Wick Chapter 2 when there are motorbikes underneath a bypass that is pretty much, let's call it a homage instead of rip-off.
Homage, yeah.
It's a homage to The Villainess. So when you hear Korean action movie, you expect that things are going to be mental.
You do.
You expect that. So with that, with Kill Boksoon, we know we're gonna get the good action. How many stars would you give this?
Okay, this is. It wasn't really particularly. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like spectacular. It wasn't. So this would get a 3-star. Give this a 3-star.
Mm-hmm.
It was watchable, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't anything new.
Yeah, cool.
Blood, but
I think I'll still probably watch it before I watch John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it the other day. Somebody was asking me about John Wick Chapter 4 last night, and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, man, I was really, really annoyed with the third film. I still really don't want to watch John Wick Chapter 4, even though I am convinced that I will watch this thing maybe in a year's time when it comes onto some streaming platform, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, everybody was right, I should have seen this in the cinema." And I am convinced that that's what's going to happen, but I still cannot bring myself to watch that film right now because the third film really annoyed me. But so let's go back to cinemas, and it's still with Shaun. Shaun, you're going to talk to us about The Pope's Exorcist.
Yes, The Pope's Exorcist. Okay, so
speaking about Italian accents and people putting on Italian accents,
yeah.
That might be a little bit. Yeah.
well, okay. So the Pope's Exorcist. So it starts off with we've got Russell Crowe, who is as it all starts, as we get these tropes all the time now. It's like based on a true story, based on a true story, like a lot of these things are based on true stories. Anyway, so it starts off with obviously an exorcism, and he sort of thinks it's just people that have been affected, and they're not really, they're not really possessed or anything like that. They just sort of want someone to say they are and all that. And there's a scene where he talks to this person and says, "Oh, if you are the devil, can you do this?" And then if you do it, and it puts it in there, and then they're sort of all right. So, but then there's this sort of then the titles come up, and then it flips to this old house in Spain.
Yeah.
And this family's come over. The husband's family used to do it, but he's died. So, and they sort of are renovating this place. They've got builders in because they want to renovate the place to sell it. And you've got the normal thing of they're knocking walls about and all stuff like that. And of course, there's things that you're going to let loose, aren't there? There's things you're going to let loose if you're in one of these creepy creepy places. So
I mean, you would feel shortchanged if a film was called The Pope's Exorcist and nothing was let loose.
yeah.
And they had nothing to exercise, yeah.
And then you get the strange like, and you know, like, and this sort of stuff, and obviously, and then you've got Russell Crowe, and he goes, he meets the Pope, comes in, sees the Pope, he goes, oh, you need to go and sort this one out for us, like that. He says, I'll send all the help I can. So it's funny, it is, because you've got a rather podgy Russell Crowe going around on a little Vespa scooter, like hobbling around on a Vespa scooter, and you see him. I don't know if he got to Spain on the scooter. I doubt it very much, from Rome. But anyway, you see him driving up to the house on a little Vespa scooter, you know, and it turns out it goes back to quite an interesting concept. This place was something to do with the Spanish Inquisition, and like the demons, they always like to catch the exorcists, you know. It goes right back to like the thingy bob, and the exorcists have to sort of stay there so that they can, and then you get the story, which is very much like The Exorcist, really. It borrows rather a lot from, you know, like the bed scene, and like, you know, heads turning round, and they seem to like this. They love this in movies now, where the bodies can sort of invert and shoot up to the ceiling, you know. Like little beetles and all that, and it's like, oh, I've seen that before a few times. Nothing new there.
Trainspotting did it first with the baby.
Yeah, but this didn't go so much on the jumpy things. I was expecting sort of the jumpy things. So there were parts of it that were quite interesting. I quite like the Inquisition book, because the actual Pope, he finds, you know, they have these big libraries, don't they, with all the stuff. And it's like, oh, this was where they walled up so and so, and you get all the story, and he goes, oh, he needs help. So yeah, so you've got Russell Crowe as the exorcist, and then there's a young priest, obviously a Spanish priest. He said, oh, you know, can you speak Latin? You got to do. And then you've got the family, and things happen, doors slam, people get thrown around, and like they get rescued from the priest sort of rescue them, and they have you know, that sort of just an exorcism film, really. But I think this was played with quite, for me, Russell Crowe, I don't know if he was hamming it up or not, or whether he was taking it seriously.
I'm sorry, I've seen the trailer. The dude is hamming it up.
He's hamming it up big time. I'm glad you told me that, because I didn't want to upset too many people.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at it. I saw the trailer. You see the trailer, and you hear the accent.
It's a massive big leg of ham.
Yeah, exactly. No, honestly, you see the trailer, you hear the accent, and you go, there is no way they're taking this film seriously. There's no way this is supposed to be a serious film, because it's like, you can take it up with my boss, Deadpool. Yeah. It's like, and you're like, oh dang, Russell, what is up? I think he's just got to this stage in his life where he's like, all right, you know, I'm old enough. I don't really care. I'm offending somebody. Don't care. I mean, think about his accent in Thor: Love and Thunder, and you're like, Russell, what the hell is that? What are you doing?
He's like, yeah. He has got really, really podgy, isn't he? Really.
Well, but I think he's always kind of been that way. He's always been like, I like a beer, I like that, and I think there was a period where he was known as a muscle man, but that was only because he had to be like that way for some certain roles. I think LA Confidential was the first one where he actually got himself like built up and everything like that for. Then Gladiator, and he had like this run of years where he decided that where it was kind of like Russell Crowe was the muscle man. But I don't feel like that was ever really him. And the second he stopped doing those roles, he went, yep, I'm just going to go live on my farm and drink my beer.
There is a common theme that runs through the film. It's like, your sins will find you out, right? Okay, so your sins will find you out. So obviously he says, and they're like, oh no, don't believe it, it's not real. So it's going back to, obviously, Russell Crowe's got a little bit of a checkered past, and the Spanish priest has got a huge checkered past, and they go, well, you've got to confess, my son, you need to confess. So, you know, like, they've got the confessional thing, you've got to say what it is, you know, don't. And so you've got these, it's a bit odd, really. It's a little bit odd, but so your sins will find you out. So
how many stars would you give the Pope's Exorcist?
I won't say I hated it. I thought it was quite amusing in places, and I don't think it took itself too seriously. So yeah, I didn't hate it. So I give this a 3-star as well. I give this one a 3-star rating.
All right. 3 stars for The Pope's Exorcist. And now we go to Amazon Prime. And Sharon, you have been sitting here so patiently waiting to talk about your thing that you've seen this week. But it is now time for me to do that customary thing that I've started doing every week, which is leave the screen while one of you talks to go check on my child. So please talk to us about Daisy Jones and the Six. Tell us what this is about. I shall be back in hopefully 30 seconds or less.
Okay. Daisy Jones and the Six. It is a... You would describe it as a... Sorry, I just pulled my earphones out and it's made my screen go wonky. It would describe it as a band biopic, a fictional band biopic. So the Six are a Pittsburgh band in the late 60s, early 70s. And they're sort of making a bit of a name for themselves on like the sort of... They've made a success for themselves in their own like Pittsburgh. And they've sort of they're touring, they're doing well. And they want to sort of bring them over to like the West Coast to sort of make an album, and they've got an agent and they're starting to make a bit of noise. And one of the lead singers, played by Sam Claflin, he is like a proper rock star. You know, he's got the looks, he's got the lifestyle, he's into drinks and drugs and into girls, and he's like this creative force. He writes the music, he's really into everything, and when the band gets really successful, he really goes off the rails, and he sort of redeems himself through his marriage. His wife sort of supports him and backs him up, so he goes sort of clean, and he writes these songs about his wife. And one of the songs, which is really quite moving, they say, this is a great song, but we think it needs 2 voices. It needs a woman's voice on it. It's not just it'll change the dynamic of this song. And so then they are introduced to this sort of LA wild child called Daisy Jones. Now, Daisy Jones was the daughter of rich parents who basically neglected her. So from the age of about 14, she's been sort of roaming around on her own, and she ended up in basically the music bars in Los Angeles on the Strip. And she has become a bit of a force in her own right. She started off just like just following the bands and getting involved in the bands and getting involved in the whole music scene. But then she started writing her own music, and she was sort of challenged. Yeah, you need to create your own voice, and you'll have your own sort of experience. And they think the guy who sort of sees her sing thinks she'd be a really good fit for joining the Six on this one record. And it turns out that this one song is a massive hit. And so they say, well, you've got to build on this momentum that you've had this one song. So we think that Daisy Jones and the Six, these 2 entities, should come together and make this seminal album. And this is the story of this band and this album. And it's set basically 20 years after this album. And it's all the people who are involved, like the singer, Daisy Jones, and all the members of the band are being interviewed by this photojournalist, a documentary maker, basically, interviewing about the couple of summers of when they were making this album. And this album is sort of becomes semi-autobiographical, so that it involves all the different tangled relationships in the band, like Daisy Jones and her. Or not, well, it's not like a relationship, because Billy Dunn, he is married with a child, but they are this sort of, they're so alike that they become like this creative powerhouse. And then other relationships within the band involve different band members that some of them are open, some of them are secret. And it's basically about the making of this one seminal album that in this one summer became the soundtrack of the year, and it created this huge buzz. And then suddenly Daisy Jones and the Six just disappeared. They never made
is this a true story, Sharon, or fictional?
It's a complete fictional story. But you probably recognise there are parallels to some bands that we've heard of, where they have these relationships, they make these huge albums, and it sort of describes their lives in a bit maybe too close to detail. It's only when you look back at it and you go, actually, we were reading a lot through our music that we probably didn't aware of, or if we were aware of it, we probably weren't aware that what an impact this would have, a la Rumours.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
So there's clear parallels between this fictional band. So and this fictional, the whole thing about this band was they had this massive song. They toured the world, and then they had this one concert, and then after this concert, they were never heard of again. They all went their separate ways and never recorded again together. some of them just completely dropped off the scene. They were just like, and it's like, what is this? And so this documentary maker is like, I want to find out the story of what happened during the making of this album. And so this is told over sort of 8 episodes, and you get these, like, as you get these sort of documentaries, when you hear about any singer, whether you have them like facing, you don't see the interviewer, you just see them facing the camera, and they just talk about certain incidents. And so you see the same incident from different band members' point of view. So the whole band is sort of interviewed, and that's how you see the story progressing through these sort of interviews. And then you get the footage of them singing and recording this album. So yeah, it is based on a best-selling novel, as you probably imagine, and the book is set out exactly the same way. It is an interviewer and the interviewee. So every line, it says the person's name, and then you've got like what they said, and then the next person what they said. So it is conducted like a long magazine article, but it's 20 chapters long. So the style of it is it's this series of interviews.
And how many episodes are there?
I think there's 8.
8 episodes.
And I, as always, I have to ask you, because obviously if anything is animated, I will read it. If it's anything that has been based on a book, you will read it. Sorry, I will watch it, you will watch it. Have you read the book?
Yes, I have.
All right, cool. So obviously we have a little bit of I think we're just gonna take not as good as the book as writ. We're gonna take that as this is not as good as a book, because I think anybody who reads a book and then watches it is very, very rare that you think this book is as good as the film.
Yeah.
Or this film is as good as a book. So what did you think of it then?
So ignoring the book altogether, I personally thought the story could have been told better in a shorter format. I don't think it needed 8 episodes to tell this story. I think 4, 6 possibly, but I think 8 was just too many. I think some episodes I thought there's elements that were introduced to sort of some of the storylines. I was thinking, I don't think this adds anything. I think where they've let them tell the time, I think it loses some of the impact. And to me, it was all very well played, and I think but to me, I think it dragged the story out for a lot longer than it needed. But it very well played. Sam Claflin plays Billy Dunn, who's like this charismatic rock star. At the beginning, he looked too old for the age of the character, but then he grew into the character. Because when they start, when they're like supposed to be like 19 and they're a band in the garage, it's like, you're not 19. Doesn't matter how much makeup you put on and you shave really closely, you're not 19, pal. And it was.
But Sam Claflin's a weird one, though. He's always looked older than he actually is.
Yeah.
I think Sam Claflin has always looked like an old man, but which is an old, rugged, good-looking man. But he's always looked. Oh, even when he was a teenager, it was like he could have played someone who was 30. So.
So yeah, that's at the beginning. I was thinking, none of you look old enough. And then one of the guys, when you see them being interviewed like 20 years later, he looks younger then than he did actually when he was a teenager. I'm thinking, you just got this. He said, look, this isn't working well. And Daisy Jones is played by Riley Keough. Obviously the granddaughter of Elvis, the daughter of Lisa Marie Presley. So she has this sort of background. She's got a good voice, quite a good sort of rock voice. Sam Claflin, if it is his own voice, again, a good voice. The music was good. So I read an article where someone said some of the music was as good had it been released as a single, it would have done well. I didn't think so. I thought some of it was quite forgettable. But I thought, yes, it's got that rock vibe of the mid-70s, so I appreciate that. But yeah, for me, it was just a bit too long. But I did think it told the story, like this fictional band, what happens to these bands that have these massive hits and they never ever live up to that again. I was thinking like Guns N' Roses. I mean, they had this sort of like Welcome to Jungle, that whole they exploded onto rock. This appetite for destruction. They sort of exploded onto the scene, and then can you name any of their subsequent albums? It's like they're still around now.
The second one, Guns N' Roses, the second one.
Yeah, I mean, I liked GNR Lies, but that was just like an EP, an extended EP. It wasn't really an album. And then other bands like Fleetwood Mac. I mean, they've been around for 50 odd years, haven't they? But after Rumours, it's like this defined your careers. So they've taken this.
Actually, now you mention it, I don't think I know of any other Fleetwood Mac song that is not on Rumours.
That came out. There's a couple that they did like Stevie Nicks did individually, and I think
Stevie Nicks. I can talk about Edge of 17 and stuff like that. But
Fleetwood Mac. I only really know their big ones. You can go your own way, and I think there's one called Tusk. Which is that on
Don't
that album, or is that
stop
a different
thinking
one?
about tomorrow.
Oh, that
That's
one. Oh, yeah, you got that one.
Yeah. So, and it talks about how they have. I think it's probably it's no. I think everyone probably guesses that it is based loosely on, sort of Stevie Nicks and I forget the name of the lead singer.
Mick Fleetwood.
Mick Fleetwood.
It wasn't about him; it was the lead singer because he was the drummer, wasn't he, Mick Fleetwood?
Oh,
Who
okay.
was there was
See, I
like
didn't know that. See,
yeah,
I didn't know that. I was
the
never
lead
really,
singer.
I was never
He's very
really into
charismatic
Fleetwood
and
Mac.
he was out there, but I know the name. I can't think of
I
what his
knew
name
Mick
is.
Fleetwood because I was like, okay, the
Yeah.
thing is named after him, and I knew Stevie Nicks only because I watched School of Rock and they mentioned Stevie Nicks. Apart from that, I think there's 5 members of Fleetwood Mac, and I don't know who anybody else is. So
You'd know him if you saw him, and you'd think, yes, that's that look that they're trying to go for. That early sort of Mick Hutchins sort of look, where they
oh
hair
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of rock
Actually, I
goth.
must say there's quite a few bands that have one sort of decent album, and then I mean the Kaiser Chiefs only know one album really. Don't know
Yeah,
any
I
others.
think it's a phenomenon. So the writer of the book obviously thought that would make a great story, and they have taken elements of that and made, I think, an entertaining television series. But for me, it just didn't warrant 8 episodes. I didn't feel that they were interesting enough to do that. So I
So
enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but I would still give it a 3 star.
three
Rather.
stars. Three
Daisy
stars
Jones
for
and the
that.
Six. But I'd say
Sounds
read the book. It's an interesting book. I mean, I didn't love the book because I found the device of this interview thing a little bit trying. By the end of the book, I was just like, I'm just tired of this narrative now. I'd rather you wrote a story as a novel rather than a long magazine article. But it was I liked it. I thought it was a good story though. I
yeah,
found it. There's lots to like about the story.
yeah.
But
There's a book. There's a book I read once. I read it. You know when you go to like a youth hostel and everything like that, there's just like a whole bunch of books that are there.
yeah,
And there was a book that I read once there, and the entire book is email exchanges. And so the entire story is told through the email exchanges that people have sent in this. I can't remember what it's called. Something. I know it's not E because that's the Ivan Welsh book, but it's something like that. And the entire book is just email exchanges. I actually thought it surprisingly worked quite well. So 3 stars for that. So all that's left to ask before we get onto Marcus's correspondence with us is, who do you think has won this week, Netflix or cinema?
Draw.
I can't remember. How did you score Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
I did score Mario Brothers, yes.
It's just gone out of my head because I think you liked Mario Brothers. So I was thinking, does that just tip it in cinema's favour?
He,
Or was it dead heat? I don't know. I must admit, I've lost.
I think Toes with that. He was he said he thinks it deserves something, but he was being generous. I seem to remember.
Yes, Shaun is right. It is a dead heat. It is a draw this week, but I feel like we have a range of 3 stars. We know like how when we give it 3 is a spectrum of 3. So Daisy Jones and the Six, the way you said it, it sounds like a bang middle of the road 3. Super Mario Brothers movie is just creeping into a 3 because I like it and I know it's aimed for people like me.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to. I think sometimes you're more generous because it gives you enjoyment, and that's what cinema's about, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, R3 is a very elastic sided, isn't it? R3.
It is. Yeah.
We expand it. Sort of 2 is quite narrow. 4 is like, let's not be hasty here.
Yeah.
We have this quite elastic.
That's it. We could have like a 3.2 and a 3.6 or a 3.9.
If we wanted to go that way, yes. 3 is elastic. 3 is elastic. But because I'm thinking like, okay, sure. Critically, you might look at Super Mario Brothers movie and say, whoa. But I'm thinking, hey, $500,000 at the box office cannot be entirely wrong.
That's it.
Even though I think it is when it comes to Avatar. But never mind. We will move on. Okay, so yes, there's somebody called Marcus, as I said, Marcus Clearspring on Twitter, who has every now and then got in touch with us on Twitter. And I keep forgetting to get to say anything that he's got in touch with us about. So he first got in touch with us in September of 2022, asking about how he could leave feedback about the podcast. And he... say some stuff about our website. I know it's not working, and he He said the first thing he wrote, and I'm just going to read a selection of these. Excuse me as I go through this. He says, "You were discussing Idris Elba, so it was probably the recent episode with 3,000 Years of Longing, which I think I spoke about, and Shaun, I know you went to see later. Is that you mentioned Idris not playing Bond, and that reminded me that no one ever discusses bringing back Shaft." He says, not the Sam Jackson version, but the original. There are lots of parallels between Richard Roundtree's Shaft and Sean Connery's James Bond, the way they move physically and their coolness. And so we ended up having a chat about that and everything like that. And I regurgitated some of the stuff that I'm pretty sure I've said on this podcast before about James Bond being anything other than a white man. Essentially, so I don't think I need to go. And then I talk about bringing back Shaft, and I think that the only way you could bring back Shaft is if you actually go back and set it in the 70s. Because I think that there's something about Shaft and the 70s and what he meant to black people being in the 70s in that milieu and fighting against the man and all that kind of stuff that really, really worked in the 70s and hasn't worked when they have tried to bring Shaft back twice now.
Yes.
And it's just become like a loud bang bang shoot shoot film, which is not what Shaft was supposed to be in the first place. But okay, cool. So and we go there. Then he sent, and I think I sent you guys a link to an article that he sent us about, which has a title: "Audiences Grow Weary of Stories That Never End." And I shared it on our Twitter account saying have a look at this, and it was just talking about the research that says if a story doesn't have an ending, people are not going to watch it. And people like Netflix and all these people who are used to a model of where you put the cliffhanger at the end and then they come back for the next season, are having to rethink it, because if people hear that this story doesn't end, they're not going to watch it, and
they don't invest in it. No.
And I have to admit, because Shaun, you're always talking about how much stuff there is to watch.
Yes.
And there's a show on Apple TV Plus, which everybody raves about, and it is a good show, called Severance. It's a very good show, and it has the most frustrating ending to the first season ever. So much so that I'm thinking it, and the way it's set up so, some people would say tantalizingly, I would say so annoyingly, saying, "Come back for the second season." And I'm like, no, I'm pissed off. I'm not coming back. Don't. But people are like, "Oh, that final episode was amazing." I'm like, yeah, whatever, go away. So, and he was talking about listening, and one of the things that he says that he sometimes searches our archive for a movie or series, and he's considering of watching, and he wants to hear what our opinions are on it first before he actually watches it.
That's nice.
Yeah. And to read verbatim what he says, "I think your reviews have value in the future because I can't know when I will get around to watching something." Obviously, don't read too much stuff out. "If it's a good movie, I don't care if it was released 2 weeks or 90 years ago." And but he does look at our archive and does that. And I told him, well, you can go to our YouTube channel and there you can search more easily for the exact film you want. And I was like, I told him that it's we have a YouTube channel where we have the individual reviews, but you do miss all the in-between chats, which is preferable for some. So some people might like to skip this bit where we're waffling on about something that isn't a film that they want to watch about. Go to the YouTube channel. And he says he likes the chats in between. Smiley face.
I think sometimes people do like that. Sometimes people do like a bit of chat, like sort of almost like getting like a I don't know how I can explain it, but I think they do like it because it shows that you're normal people with normal.
Well, yeah. It shows that we're normal people who have sometimes very wrong ideas and wrong ratings for Super Mario Brothers the movie.
That's it.
So,
I mean, Catface Danny. I mean, what about that? That sounds like a movie, doesn't it?
Catface Danny. All right, cool. And he ends his last thing with a recommendation for us.
Ooh.
Recommendation. He says, "Have any of you watched The Consultant on Prime with Christoph Waltz?" It's both entertaining and intelligent, although partially unconventional. I think it's Waltz's best work since Inglourious Bastards, mainly due to how well it's written. And he says, and the episodes are only 35 minutes for a total of 4 hours and 30 minutes, for 4.5 hours. And that's only 1.5 Marvel movies, he says with a smiley face.
That sounds doable.
It does sound doable. It does sound doable. So The Consultant on Amazon Prime. If any of us is up for that, wants to take up the thing and watch that, and then we can let Marcus know what we thought and whether we agree with him on that. So thank you very much, Marcus Claire Spring, for getting in touch with us. At his Twitter handle is at WordItUK or WordIt UK. Thank you very much for getting in touch with us. Please do.
Yeah,
keep
thank
listening.
you.
When you eventually get around to this episode, let us know. Let us know that you've done that. And now, so Shaun, you have a picture in your background.
Yes.
Was this supposed to be for us to guess something about?
No, not really. I was just sort of experimenting a little bit because, as you know, the past couple of weeks I haven't been able to. But for some strange reason now, I've started using. I mean, there was for some reason was Edge because basically, I was having troubles with the computer. Well, it's sort of updated and stuff, but. I did this through Firefox, and it's just like it was before. It's just like totally
it's working now.
It's working now, and I can get the back one. So I was just looking for something, and I thought, what looks the most aesthetically pleasing? I mean, and I just like that. So I was going to put up the one. I don't know if you remember a while ago we were talking about a remake of The Wild Bunch.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember. I saw that you had a whole bunch of faces.
Yeah.
Of people who you think could play the other roles that in the.
Yeah, I'm afraid good old Bo Hopkins is done now. But I don't know if you remember a while ago. I asked you how I could do it. Remember, because I think I put a post on and say the characters that would play the Wild Bunch if they did if they did do the remake.
Yeah.
And so that was like the thing that you sent me really, or you told me what to do to make it. So
yeah.
So yeah.
Oh,
so it's up to you. You can have a go. You can have a go at naming those guys if you want.
Oh no, I was actually interested with the other one because one of the guys. I remember that you said that there was a time with From a Certain Light I looked like him, and I remember that he's the actor who he played the defendant in To Kill a Mockingbird with Gregory Peck.
That's it. Yeah. Brock Peters.
That's it. Brock Peters.
Yeah. He used to turn up a lot. There's also another one. I'll try and find. I mean, that's from one of my film stills. That is, and he was in another film called The McMasters with Jack Palance, and he's in. So with Brock Peters, yeah, it's a good one. He actually is in a relationship with an Indian woman. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. Have you, Sharon?
Well, like Native American.
Native American, yeah. Sorry, yeah. So he's in a relationship with a Native American, Cherokee. Yeah, I've got to get this right, haven't I? And obviously, he's wanted for something. And Jack Palance is an old Confederate officer with one arm, So you can imagine it was Burl Ives is in it, and there's a few other people, and it's. So
in this picture, is that Jack Palance on the left?
No. This is Eli Wallach's in the middle.
Yeah, Eli Wallach, I recognized.
And who was in Trinity? He was in the Trinity films. This guy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He was in the Trinity films with Bud Spencer. That's
him.
His name is Terry something.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, Terence Hill. Terence Hill and Bud Spencer. Yeah, Terence Hill. Well done.
I was looking at him thinking, that looks like that Terence Hill. That looks like that Terence guy who was in all those films with Bud Spencer, where they're actually both Italian.
Yeah,
but you wouldn't know.
You
just wouldn't know because of the way they did the films and everything. But okay, anyway, so that's enough thing. That you see now that bit that we just had is one of those waffly bits that maybe Marcus likes and maybe some other people have turned off by now. But until next week, when we will see something, I don't know, I have no clue yet. Maybe I'll get a chance to talk about Princess Power. But I would say until that time, please do go onto your podcast listening thing of choice and leave us a review. iTunes, Spotify, we accept all those manners of currency. Let us know what you think. Get onto our YouTube channel, interact with the video, tell us what you think about our review, and follow us on Twitter at Netflix vs Cinema, because we would like to interact with you, hear more about what it is, maybe have a couple of live shows where people tell us what they think and everything, and people can come on and give us their guest reviews. We would love all that. And because I'm beginning to think that we are actually getting a kind of good at this podcasting lark. Yeah, and it would be good to share with more people. So
share the love.
Yes, so until next week, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Thank you ever so much for joining us. Bye.